So picture this for a second. It is May of 2019.
Okay.
You're a city employee in Baltimore. It's a Tuesday. You walk into your office. Maybe you've got your coffee. You're ready to just, start the grind.
Right. A normal morning.
Exactly. You sit down, you wiggle the mouse to wake up the computer, and nothing.
Just black screens.
Well, worse, actually. Locked files,
Right.
ransom notes demanding Bitcoin. And it's not just your computer.
It's the whole network.
It's the cubicle next to you. It's the office down the hall. In a heartbeat, email is gone, voicemail is dead, property records, utility billing, like the water bill system, it all just evaporates.
Man, it sounds like the opening scene of a disaster movie.
It really does.
But for Baltimore, that was the reality. And honestly, reading through the sources for this deep dive, the scariest part wasn't the screens going dark. It was what happened immediately after.
You mean the chaos inside the offices?
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at a scene of absolute scrambling. You have employees physically dragging whiteboards out of storage closets.
Because they suddenly can't track anything digitally?
Right. People are hunting for paper pads, pens. They're trying to remember phone numbers because their Outlook contacts are just gone. It was a total instant revert to an analog world.
And that is exactly where we need to start today.
Yeah.
Because we are unpacking a really compelling text titled Chapter 9, When Technology Becomes a Risk.
And it's a fascinating read.
It is. But I want to be clear right off the top, this isn't a story about hackers and hoodies or, the specific malware they used.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. If we focus on the hackers, we completely miss the point.
Right. We aren't talking about the attack vector here. We're talking about the addiction.
The addiction to the tools.
Yeah. We're looking at how organizations, specifically public safety and government agencies, get hooked on technology to the point where they literally cannot function without it.
And we've got a pretty heavy stack of sources today to back this up.
We do.
We're pulling from the chapter text itself, which analyzes public safety tech. But we're also cross-referencing reports from security.com, Route 50, and some really fascinating organizational research from the Wharton School.
So the mission for this deep dive?
The mission is to look past the glitch. We're conditioned to think technology reduces risk, it makes things faster, cleaner, more efficient.
Sure. That's the whole selling point.
But the core argument in these documents is that technology doesn't actually remove risk. It just moves it.
It moves it.
Yeah, it changes where the risk lives. It moves it from the frontline operation to the server room and eventually right into the management structure itself.
Okay, so let's go back to Baltimore. Because the detail that really stuck with me, and I think this is where the deeper insight comes in, is about the public safety services.
The police and fire departments.
Right. The source explicitly says they didn't stop.
That is correct. The 911 calls were still answered. The fire truck still rolled. If you called for help, help came. But, and this is the but that costs millions of dollars, the coordination between those services started to crumble.
Explain that distinction for me. Because if the truck arrives, isn't the job done? I mean, why does the coordination matter if the rubber is meeting the road?
Think about how modern emergency response works. It's not just a truck anymore. It's a massive interconnected network. You have a computer-aided dispatch system.
CAD.
Right, CAD. And that tells you where every other unit is. It tells you the history of the address you're driving to. It tells police if there's a registered gun owner in the house.
So it's situational awareness. It's the context.
Precisely. And when the ransom hit, that network vanished. You're operating in what the source calls a degraded state.
Degraded state.
Yeah. You might get to the house, but you're flying blind. You don't know who is inside. You don't know if backup is 2 minutes away or 20. You lose the shared picture.
And in Baltimore, this wasn't just a 24-hour hiccup. This went on for a long time.
Months in some capacities, because the city leadership made a very specific, very tough call. They chose not to pay the ransom.
Which ethically I get. You don't negotiate with terrorists. But operationally, that has to be a nightmare.
Operationally, it was a sledgehammer. It meant they couldn't just get a decryption key and go back to normal. They had to rebuild their systems from the ground up.
Wow.
The recovery cost over $18 million.
$18 million. That is a staggering number for a city budget. I mean, that's parks, schools, roads, just gone to fix servers.
It is. But here is the nuance that I think gets lost in the headlines. When we read about these attacks, we naturally assume it was some Mission Impossible operation.
Like a sophisticated spy ring breaking through the firewall.
Right. But the text says it wasn't a careless click or a single bad choice that caused the collapse.
Right. It explicitly states the attack exposed weaknesses that had been present for years. The ransomware was just the trigger.
Exactly. Think of it like a stress test that went terribly wrong. The integration between departments, police talking to fire, talking to public works, it didn't collapse all at once when the screens went black. It faded, it eroded.
The erosion of integration. I actually highlighted that phrase in the text because it felt poetic but also terrifying. How does that actually happen on the ground?
Well, think about the physics of information. When the digital highway is closed, information moves slower. You have to make a phone call instead of sending a blast email to 50 people.
Yeah,
You have to physically walk a piece of paper down the hall.
it introduces friction.
Massive friction. So what do humans do when things get hard? They simplify. Departments naturally started working in silos.
And just focus on their own stuff.
Exactly. They pulled inward to get their own immediate tasks done because reaching out was too hard. The shared picture, that awareness that helps the whole city function as one organism, it just slowly evaporated.
It's interesting because it challenges the whole idea of efficiency. We think digital tools make us efficient, but this suggests they also act as the glue holding the organization together. Without the tool, the glue dissolves.
That's a perfect segue into the analogy the source uses to explain this dependency. They compare technology to scaffolding around a building.
I loved this visual. Walk us through it.
It captures the dynamic perfectly. Technology supports the work quietly in the background, like scaffolding supports a building under construction. It's there, it's holding things up.
But you don't really look at it.
Right. After a while, because it's so reliable, you stop noticing it. You forget it's even there.
You assume the building is standing up on its own. You think, wow, we're doing a great job, not realizing the software is doing all the heavy lifting.
Exactly. And that leads to a concept we really need to drill into today, the paradox of reliability.
That sounds counterintuitive. Usually reliability is the goal. I mean, we want 99.9% uptime. How can reliability be a bad thing?
It's not that reliability is bad, it's that it breeds complacency. The paradox is that the better the technology works, the more dangerous it becomes to the human element.
Because we get lazy.
Because we lose muscle memory. If the car starts every single morning for 10 years, you don't just stop maintaining it, you stop planning for what happens if it doesn't start.
Oh, I see.
You don't have a bus schedule handy, you don't have walking shoes by the door, you lose the capacity to operate without the machine.
So when the failure finally happens, it's catastrophic. Not because the failure itself is unfixable, but because you're totally helpless.
Right. And the International Association of Chiefs of Police, which is one of the sources cited here, they call technology a force multiplier.
A force multiplier.
Yeah. It fills gaps in staffing, it helps commanders see patterns, it stretches the budget, it allows agencies to do more with less.
Which is literally the sales pitch for every tech vendor on Earth.
Buy this software, you can hire fewer people. Correct. But that creates a trap. Because the tech is filling those human gaps, the backup plans, the manual ways of doing things, they become informal. They get outdated.
Or people just straight up forget them.
Exactly. The scaffolding is effectively holding up the building, so when you remove it,
The building falls down.
the operation feels incredibly unstable. It's the classic trap of efficiency. We get so efficient using the tools that we lose the analog literacy of the job.
Analog literacy, I like that phrase. But here is where the text throws a curveball that I actually struggled with at first.
Okay.
When things break, my instinct is to blame the machine, stupid server, or why didn't IT patch that software? We naturally want a technical reason for a technical failure.
It's the natural human reaction. But the source material argues that the real risk isn't technical at all. It's managerial.
Managerial. So we can't blame the robots.
Not this time. The risk lives in things like ownership, maintenance, and training. It lives in the decisions humans make about the machines.
The source talks about this ownership gap. And I think anyone who has worked in a large organization, whether corporate or government, is going to nod their head at this.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got one department that technically manages the system.
Usually the IT department.
Right. Then another department that pays for it out of their budget, and a third department that actually uses it every day.
The classic triangle of doom. And the question the Wharton School research highlights is, when it breaks, who decides what happens?
Everyone points at everyone else. It's like, I thought you were handling the backup. And they're like, no, I just pay the invoice.
Exactly. There is total confusion about authority. Who has the power to say, okay, stop using the system, switch to paper? If that authority isn't defined beforehand, you lose precious time debating it during a crisis.
And while they're debating in a conference room, the dispatchers are staring at black screens, and the public is out there waiting for help.
Right. And then there's the one-person problem.
Oh man, this one.
This one really hit home for me because we see it everywhere, from small businesses to massive government agencies. The text describes how, in many places, there are maybe only one or two people who truly understand how a critical system works.
We all know that person. Let's call him Bob.
Good old Bob.
Bob knows where all the cables go. Bob knows the password to the back end.
Yeah.
Bob knows that if you wiggle the wire on the left, the server comes back on.
Bob is a legend. We love Bob. But Bob is also a massive, walking, single point of failure.
What happens if Bob retires? Or if Bob is on a cruise in the Bahamas with no cell service when the ransomware hits?
The organization is completely exposed. The technology is there, but the institutional knowledge on how to keep it running just walked out the door with Bob.
Yeah.
It creates a vulnerability that has nothing to do with software code and everything to do with personnel management.
It's funny, we talk about redundancy in servers, having a backup hard drive. But we rarely talk about redundancy in Bobs.
That's a great way to put it. Redundancy in Bobs. And it links right back to training, too. The expert analysis in the text points out that we train for success, not failure.
Which seems backward for public safety. Don't they train for worst-case scenarios constantly?
They train for the incident to be a worst case, a big fire, an active shooter, a hurricane, but they train using tools that are working perfectly. You sit in a class and they show you, click here to file a report, click here to send a dispatch. It's all about which buttons to press when the lights are on.
So no one teaches you what to do when you click the button and the screen just laughs at you.
Exactly. Training almost never covers how to operate when the screen goes blank. So when the outage happens, your staff isn't just dealing with a technical glitch, they are dealing with a psychological shock.
They are in a situation they have literally never practiced for.
Right.
Okay, so we've got the loud, explosive failure of Baltimore, the ransomware. That's the movie version of this problem. But the sources suggest that isn't even the most common way this risk shows up. There's something more insidious called the normalization of deviance.
Yes. This is a concept that originally came out of the analysis of the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, actually. But the text applies it perfectly to IT and organizational behavior.
Okay.
Baltimore was a loud failure. But most agencies face quiet failures.
So paint the picture for me. What does a quiet failure look like in an office?
It's when a system doesn't crash, but it just degrades. It slows down. Or maybe it stops giving you the full data, it becomes glitchy.
And instead of fixing it, we just work around it.
We completely compensate. We stick a Post-it note on the monitor that says, don't click the blue button, it crashes the system.
Yes.
Or reboot twice before logging in. We call our friend in the other department to double-check the data because we don't trust what's on the screen anymore.
And these workarounds become routine. They
Yeah.
just become how we do things here.
And that creates a massive illusion of safety. This is the deviance becoming normal. Because the job is still getting done, the leadership at the top thinks everything is fine.
Right.
They look at their dashboard and the lights are green. They don't see the Post-it notes. They don't hear the side conversations.
The text mentions research from the Wharton School here that is pretty damning. It uses a term, absorptive capacity.
It's a dense academic term, but the meaning is really simple. The people on the ground, the dispatchers, the officers, the clerks, they act as shock absorbers.
They absorb the risk.
They take on the extra stress, the extra cognitive load of managing a bad system.
So the system is broken, but the people are bending over backwards to hide the fact that it's broken.
Precisely. And so the risk is completely hidden from the brass until something finally snaps. Either the system fails completely or the people burn out.
But why doesn't anyone say anything? Why don't they wave a flag and say, hey, this is broken, we need help?
The source calls it the culture of silence. And this is the psychological component. In many organizations, raising a tech issue feels like complaining.
Oh, nobody wants to be a complainer.
You don't want to be the person who is always whining, this doesn't work. You want to be a problem solver.
You want to be a can-do person.
Exactly. So you solve it quietly with a workaround, and the risk stays buried.
That is profound. We think we're being good employees by making it work, but we're actually masking a structural failure. We're letting the scaffolding rot because we're holding it up with our own hands.
And eventually your hands get tired.
So we've painted a pretty scary picture here. Digital addiction, fragile scaffolding, hidden risks, the Bob factor. We can't just leave our listeners there. How do we fix this? What do the sources say is the way out?
The solution starts with a fundamental mindset shift. The text is very clear on this. You have to stop treating technology as an IT problem and start treating it as a command decision.
Meaning the leaders need to own the risk, not just the guy fixing the server in the basement.
Precisely. It starts with defining ownership. Agencies need to put in writing Who owns this system? Who pays for it? And most importantly, and this is the part usually missing, who has the authority to make operational decisions when it breaks?
So no more guessing games when the screen goes dark. You want a pre-signed order that says, if system A goes down, person B decides to switch to paper.
Right, you define the chain of command for the failure, and then you have to plan for degraded states.
I really love that term. It sounds so official, but it really just means, what is our plan for when things suck?
It means accepting that failure will happen. It is inevitable. Instead of hoping the system works 100% of the time, you plan for the 1% where it doesn't.
Right.
The source argues that paper methods, radio procedures, manual reporting, these shouldn't be seen as desperate improvisations. They should be treated as core operational skills.
Do you actually practice using paper? That feels like going back to the Stone Age.
It feels that way, sure, but you treat it like a skill set. If your team knows exactly which form to grab and who to run it to, the panic just disappears. You're just switching modes. Okay, digital is down, we are switching to analog mode.
That leads into the training aspect. The source suggests training for reality. What does that look like practically?
It means your training exercises need to include failure. If you run a simulation of a major incident, say a bad storm or a large public event, you should throw in a tech inject.
A tech inject.
Yeah. Halfway through the exercise, when the pressure is highest, the moderator says, okay, the CAD system just went down. What do you do?
Oh, that would stress people out. I can
Yeah.
see the eye rolls from here.
It would, but better to be stressed in a simulation than in real life. It forces the teams to practice keeping that shared picture without the digital tools.
It exposes those silos we talked about earlier.
It forces you to verify that you can actually talk to the fire department without the software doing it for you.
Exactly. The goal isn't to prevent technical failure. You can't. The goal is to prevent the coordination from failing when the technology does.
You want the team to keep working together, even if they're using stone tablets and smoke signals.
It really is about resilience. We talk about resilience in terms of people like mental toughness, but this is organizational resilience.
And that's the big takeaway from all these reports. The source material emphasizes that when ownership is clear, the response to disruption is faster. You stop flailing and you start acting.
So bringing this all back to where we started, Baltimore, 2019. It wasn't just about malware. It was about a city realizing that its digital scaffolding had become the only thing holding the building up.
And when that scaffolding was removed, they had to relearn how to stand on their own. The lesson for you listening is that technology helps integration, absolutely, but reliance without preparation threatens it.
It's risk hiding in plain sight. We look at the shiny new software and we see a solution. We rarely look at it and see a potential liability if we don't manage it right.
And we rarely ask the hard questions until it's too late.
Speaking of hard questions, the chapter ends with a really provocative thought that I want to leave you with. It's something to chew on.
It cuts right to the heart of the command decision concept.
Here it is. When failure happens at 3 in the morning, who is expected to decide what comes next? Who has the authority to redirect operations when the systems are down?
It's not an IT question, it's a leadership question.
And if you don't know the answer to that right now, you might want to find out before the screen goes black.
Indeed. Look at your scaffolding. Make sure you know what's underneath it.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.